Alright, well, it's a pretty nice sunny day. Temperatures mid-70s. Clear blue sky. The bees are busy coming and going like they have been for the past 3 or 4 days. Lots of pollen coming in. So anyway, this is going to be a day that we're going to do kind of a slightly pre-spring inspection of our hives. See what kind of shape they're in, make sure we see the queens, see if the queens are laying, and so on and so forth. So let's get to it. Alright, well, we've already put some smoke in the entrances of all 3 of these hives. So we're using our electric bee smoker, and lots of bees here under the cover, by the inner cover. I'm going to make a quick look here to make sure the queen's not up here. And we've had quite a bit of granulated sugar up here on the top of the inner cover. They've used most of that. And we're not seeing the queen here. Make sure she's not on here. Okay, we don't see her here. So she's down in the brood chamber here somewhere. So we're going to go ahead and take a look down in here. Okay, I'm seeing some sealed brood on here. Shake some of these bees off. Okay, so on this frame, not sure how well you can see it, but I am seeing some very young larvae, some eggs. And notice that they're beginning to put, this is a brood area here, and they're storing pollen on the peripheral. Nice little band of pollen. That's the way it should be. You see it a little bit easier over here. Nice little brood pattern here, and they're storing pollen up in this area here. You should be able to make out that nice bright yellow of the pollen. And I see a good number of bees with pollen on their hind legs. They've just brought it in. They haven't deposited it yet. I have no idea where they're getting the pollen. I don't know of any natural or native plants that are blooming a lot right now. Okay, here's our queen. And let me show her to you. And she is right here. She almost needs to be remarked. She doesn't have much yellow or red paint on her. There she goes. So we're just going to close this up and get ready to mark her. Marking pin out here. Now this is a little capture cage. Now this grid, the worker bees can get out through here. It's almost like a queen excluder, but she will stay, she can't. She's going to be too fat. So we just want to get our marking pin ready, get her remarked. There, you just saw a worker bee come out. There's the queen. She's trying to get out, but she really can't. Alright, the last of the workers just went out. So now we're going to push this little, well, went back in. Now we're going to get her situated up here against this same little grid. There, she's in a position now where I can mark her thorax. Okay, she's remarked. And we'll just let her hang out in here for a little bit so that paint kind of dries on her. Again, she's a 2018 queen, so she's still going to be marked in red. Alright, so we'll see if we can release her out of here. We're going to open this door up a little bit here. Here she comes out. Okay, so now we can close this hive back up. They're all set. The queen's been remarked. We're going to give them some new granulated sugar until we can get the sugar syrup made up. Okay, we're all done with this hive, so we're going to move on to the next. Okay, this hive here, this and the other one next to it here, we've had a thermometer in here for the past month and a half or so. And this leads to a little probe on the inside. So basically it's taking the temperature of the interior or the middle of the cluster. Right now it's reading 94.5 degrees. Hopefully you can see that here. But the temperatures have been staying pretty constant. Hasn't gotten much below 89, 90 degrees, even though the outside temperatures and snow and everything else, we've been looking at 16, 18 degrees. Okay, so we're going to go in and take a look at this hive now and see what's happening. And both hives have been pretty much the same temperature. They've fluctuated a little bit. Okay, they still got quite a bit of stores up here. Okay, now seeing some larvae, various stages, and some eggs. Now that would tell me that there is a queen in here. She is starting to lay some eggs. There is some larvae. Check this next frame here. Now, as I previously mentioned, there is a queen. But is it the queen that's supposed to be in here? The presumption is it is, but I always like to be sure. There she is. Finally, let's see if I can point her out to you. She's right here. Nice red mark on her. She looks healthy. She's moving around. So, okay, there's the queen. Nice red mark on her there. Okay, so that's good. I was getting somewhat worried. I thought, well, gee, I hope there's nothing happened to our queen. She's still there, looking very nice and fat and healthy. So, we're going to go ahead and close up this hive. Everything looks good. Okay, so this is probably going to be our strongest hive, hive number 3. And again, we've got a thermometer in here. Temperature inside the cluster area, middle of the brood frames, is 96.6. So I think that's just slightly warmer than the previous hive right next to it over here. So anyway, we'll take a look in here. Now these bees in this colony have been going through their granulated sugar quite rapidly. They're using a lot of it. They're bringing in a lot of pollen. And again, I think this is probably my strongest hive. Didn't see the queen there. Quick look here. You always want to check your inner cover. Although it's not real common, but it is possible that the queen could be here. So you want to make sure that you give her a good look in case she's there. And like the previous 2 hives, wherever they're getting it, whatever the source is, they're bringing in quite a bit of that nice lemon yellow pollen. And this frame is starting to draw out some of the comb a little bit. I imagine once the population increases and maybe nectar flow, or maybe even when I Probably in a few days if not today, I'll give these bees a gallon of sugar syrup. So I'm kind of looking to, and there's the queen. It's just as I was about to say, I always look for the queen first. Well, she's right here, point on my finger, still a nice red mark on her. So there she is. She's looking pretty healthy and fat. I'm seeing a lot of pollen out in here around the brood area. Okay, so now that we know where our queen is, we're going to stick her back in the hive. And we're just going to go through the rest of this a little bit to see if, make sure we see some eggs and brood, larvae. There is eggs and there's larvae. And from the eggs and larvae that I'm seeing, this queen is setting up a nice brood pattern. Still has some sealed brood up here. Probably be hatching in the next few days. This side has got a lot more. This is the typical brood. And again, they're storing pollen right along in here where my finger is going. So that's where some of that nice bright lemon yellow pollen is going. So okay, so I'm seeing eggs, and maybe I'll look at one last frame. I'm seeing eggs, larvae, the queen. That queen belongs here. She's marked. So I know who that queen is. She's the original queen in here from last year. Yeah, good eggs and larvae. Brood pattern here on this frame. So I'd say this hive is doing very, very well. And I think of the 3 hives, this is the one that's probably really going to, when they're ready, maybe in another 2 to 3 weeks or so, certainly by toward the end of March into April, that's when hives are really going to start building up their populations. And let me get my probe, temperature probe, put back down in here. Be kind of in the center of the cluster and the bee and the brood cluster. Okay. Put the remaining frames in. Yeah, this hive here, this is the one that I expect will really, as long as the queen is there and doing her job and all the other bees are doing their jobs, I have a feeling this is the hive that's really gonna explode, as they say. In other words, the population will just really explode. There'll be a lot of bees, and I expect this one to really, really do well. Inner cover back on. Probably tomorrow I'm going to come out here and give them some sugar syrup. I'll make some up and have it ready. And I'll show you tomorrow, but the sugar syrup is going to be in a 1-gallon bucket. I'm going to put it right on top of the inner cover. I'll have the hole open so they can access it. Then I'll have a empty deep box up on here, and then the regular cover. Okay, so that concludes our afternoon inspection of our hives. Everything looks good. We saw all 3 queens. This queen we remarked because her red mark was almost completely rubbed off. It was gone. I remarked her, as you saw, so she'll be good for a while. Again, all these queens are last year's queens. They seem to be doing good. They're all laying eggs. There's larvae. They're storing lots of pollen, but a little low on the nectar or honey sources. So I think Probably these two hives, I'll probably come out here tomorrow and put a gallon of sugar syrup on them, and we'll show that in the next video. So everything looks good in the Honig Trail Apiary. So that's it for today, and next video will probably be putting the sugar syrup on these two hives. Thanks for watching, and happy beekeeping.